Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region, and welcome to this Free State Colorado interview. Today, I'm joined by Representative Ken DeGraaf, District 22 in El Paso County. Representative DeGraaf is one of Colorado's highest-rated pro-liberty legislators, earning the Liberty Warrior Award from Liberty Scorecard in 2024 and 2023. Well, sir, I hope you are well, and thank you for joining me today.
I am well. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's good to talk to you again. It's been a little while.
It has, and I really appreciate you taking the time. I know we're on the eve of a new legislative session. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens this year down there. And, I'd love to get into the changes. So, Representative DeGraaf, Colorado Republicans picked up 3 seats in the 2024 election, which cost House Democrats their supermajority. So, can you explain what's the significance of House Republicans no longer being in this superminority position?
Well, I think just like we talked about before we started here, one of the things is they can't change the rules without a two-thirds supermajority, without a two-thirds majority. So uh, that that would explain why the rules have not been made more onerous at this point. Um, so they can't just change those, and there's other things that they can't implement unless they have a two-thirds majority. So I think that's going to give us a little better leverage as far as being able to be able to they're not going to be able to shut us down as easily. So now I think that's going to be I think that'll be something that the Republicans have to work through because of course, that's going to give individual Republicans a certain amount of additional power in order to maybe get what they want or to compromise to say, well, I'll come over with you if you'll give me this or something like that. So those are deals that I hope that people aren't making. It's pretty critical, I think, that we get to back to the point where we represent and we secure the rights of our constituents of Coloradans, not something that we trade on in order to get bennies for ourselves or for our agenda. I think a value really is only a value until you trade it for something more. So I really hope that the Republicans that are in now will hold true to their campaign promises and stick to the values of our republic. And I classify those as the values of our republic because, of course, they're not actually necessarily Republican values. The Democrats on Wednesday, ironically enough, will take an oath to support the Constitution of the United States and of Colorado, and then as soon as the speaker starts talking, they will start carving it up. So they're already looking at ways to carve up our the pound of flesh into various um, for their socialist uprisings. So I think it's something that we need to stay on top of, and we need to just hold to our values because they are something that resonates with the people of Colorado, with Americans in general. Um, what I like to remind people is that it's those values uh, that were the cohesive force of 13 loosely knit colonies and about only 3% of the population of that motivated them and inspired them to take on the greatest empire in the world at the time and win. And we have those values. Well, I mean, they're the values of our republic. The Democrats could certainly use them, but they've indicated that they have absolutely no interest in them whatsoever. So we have them, and when you describe them to people, they have the same level of motivation. People are not motivated about capitalism. They are motivated about individual life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they're seeing I think they're increasingly seeing the effects of excessive government in their lives, and it's not making their lives better. What we're seeing continually is government done to you and not for you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. The politicians there on the Democratic side are looking for ways to take more money out of our wallets, take away our right to self-defense. Of course, reward their special interest
The
friends through their
Democrat side, the,
right, right, through
the
the
Democrat side, not the Democratic side.
oh, okay, yeah, no, good point there for sure. The Democrats in the House and the Senate both.
Yeah, and ironically, I just got somebody brought me my mail, and I got this book, which I'm sure is a fine book, but it's about conflict resolution, and the that sent to me by it was sent to everybody by one of the Democrats, and it was the key to it is listen, talk, and work it out, which is just really funny because the one thing that they definitely did not do was listen. They did not talk and they did not work it out. I think their conflict resolution is more in the lines of bulldoze. And it's this so this so I got a chuckle out of this book just showing up in my mail because it's kind of like Jared Polis and his ideas like, hey, we need to disagree better, where he's going to give the state of dystopia speech on Thursday, I guess, and he'll lay out his key agenda, and of course we won't see the bills on those key agenda until the last week, right? So to ensure that we don't have any dissent that dissent is minimized, and so any of his real priorities are going to be they'll just like losing your property rights to fiat zoning by Denver bureaucrats, and I say bureaucrats intentionally because it's leadership by Jack Assery. So they took that zoning, rezoning, and we don't really know how that's going to how that's going to shape up yet. But we do know that anything that is going to be really contentious. Well, of course, the entire year is contentious, and that's why there's 700 bills. So you can't possibly deal with that. So when I tell people that, Democrat or Republican alike, Republicans especially, but Democrats even, when you tell them and you ask them, it's a good exercise to say, well, how many bills, how many new laws do you think 100 legislators in approximately 100 days, we don't work every single day, but how many in even 10-hour days, how many laws do you think that they could make uh, you know, that would be thoroughly considered? And the general answer is about 10. And then they'll say, it's kind of entertaining because they feel like it's a test, and they say, well, maybe 50. Maybe 50 you could do in 100 days with 100 legislators and really get this all worked out and then you tell them and you say, no, it starts at 500. But last year there were 700 bills out of 500 that were considered, and I think it was over 600 that were actually passed. So 6 out of 100 out of 500. And if you take those down, you say, okay, over 10-hour days, 100 days, it's about 2 hours per bill, and it's probably less than 10 minutes per page for what we're actually looking at for legislation that is going to be in on the books forever and ever until we can get some constitutionalists in there that can undo that. And of course, that's not going to happen until we have until the gold standard, Jenna's gold standard goes away. And you know, you got to make sure you stay on the sidewalk in the park now, so you don't in Polisville, so you don't step in a big steaming pile of gold standard. But um, we have to. Those laws are going on the books 500 at a time. And this year, I don't know if you saw it, but I wrote an essay with 704 words in it for the number of bills that were presented. And the funny thing was people were like, wow, this is really long. It's like, yeah, consider now that each one of those words is an entire bill that's 10, 20, or even 100 pages long. And it's government that is being done to you and not done for you.
Wow. Well, can you explain how that works a little bit? Because, most of everything I've seen, each legislator can introduce 5 bills per session. So how do you get up to 700?
Well, there are some bills that come out of the finance process, out of the budgeting process that they have to be cleaned up. But for the most part, the Republican bills are going to be they're going to get rid of those in committee. Committee just serves as right now, just like they will still, but essentially all be kill committees for killing Republican bills and rubber stamping their own. So So some of those bills are like cleanup items on the budget, and uh, but for the most part, they are serious. Serious. They're not really serious legislation. They're ideological legislation. Um, and they are and if you look at if you look at legislators and legislators, not representatives, like Junie Joseph, she has more than 5 bills. So the people that are going to carry the water for the Polis agenda, they're going to get more. I think they're delivered by glitter powered unicorn over the rainbow of good intentions that they just keep showing up, and you know they they just pass through and they get a late bill approved, and it's one more this, one more that, millions of dollars here, millions of dollars there. It's all free money, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, people think Congress is bad. Our state legislature is just as bad with these bills being shoved through. Like you said, no real time to read through them, no time for honest debate. It's driven by special interests or the Polis agenda, as you said. And then it's my way or the highway. They push what they want through and kill the bills that they disagree with. I mean, it's an outrage, really, when you think of what
But they
representative
did
government.
send me a nice book on they did send me a nice book though on listening and talking and coming to a collaborative solution. They don't do that, but yeah. Yes, we don't have a representative government at this point. You have legislators that are representing, you have too many legislators that are representing an ideology instead of they're tasked we're constitutionally tasked to secure the rights, to secure those rights, those creator endowed self-evident rights in accordance with the laws of nature and nature's God, that among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're tasked with securing those rights with the just powers that are derived from the consent of the governed. So lots in there, and it's obviously much better written in the preamble of the Declaration of Independence. But you have, again, the individual is sovereign over government. We have the idea of government servants because government is supposed to be serving the people, but increasingly they want the people to serve government. I think your tax day is somewhere around is in May sometime now, and it's increasingly going towards December. I think they'd be, and the Democrats just can't figure out how to get enough tax dollars. They're conspiring continuously, and it's one of their goals is to get rid of Tabor. And so what you'll see a lot of tax credits or things that will come out of Tabor because out of your Tabor refund, because what they want to do is they want to make your Tabor refund no longer relevant, right? So eventually you'll just have this Tabor refund that's like, well, here's your $1.50, and we spent $2 sending it to you, and then they want the people to go, well, why are you even doing this? Why don't you just keep the $1.50? Well, they want to get rid of Tabor because Tabor has well, the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, because it has limitations on taxes, so they can't just impose new taxes without an approval of the people. And obviously, the people are pretty certain that they're being taxed enough. And there's limits on budget growth based on population. So they don't want to have their budget capped by the number of people. So, and they don't want to have to ask you if you're okay with the taxes. And yeah, and of course, that's why they have so many fees. That's why the number of fees is going up continuously because they can't, they have to have voter approval for a tax. So instead, they call it a fee and they tack on a fee, which, it's just a tax by another, it's just by a tax by another name because they don't respect you and they don't respect the people of Colorado. And as long as you have money, they want it.
You talked a little bit about these ideologies that have captured our state government. What would you say are the dominant ideologies that we're gonna see in these new bills coming out this year?
Well, I think the dominant ideology is just kind of what it's always been. Whether that's, whatever ism you want to call that, there's always things that are morphing, but it's an ideology of like that. I don't know if you saw the video that went around about the Church of Woke. They worship at they worship at the trough of state, and you really have a group of people that they just feel, and it's interesting if you read Bastiat in the law, how it's really the same discussion. He's talking about the socialists and the social engineers, and they just want to take more of your money and what he calls the politics of plunder. And they want to spend it accordingly, and they want to do their social programs and they want to shape you. And I think it's ultimately there it's a rejection of with well, it's an atheist agenda, and they want to reshape humans. They want to reshape man in their own image. They reject the idea of man being created in God's image, Imago Dei, which, of course, is part of the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal, and without a creator, we don't have rights. We only have privileges. So they don't see a creator. They only see that we have privileges uh, that are not endowed by God, but bestowed by government. And they want to use those privileges and they shape those to try to shape people into what they feel that people should be. And this was it's been a while, but if you look at the even in the founding of not in the founding, but in Harvard University's history, they talked about old lights versus new lights, and the liberal, and the liberal ideology really, I think, really flows down from the liberal theology, which is that man is basically good, and if you constrain man enough and you force him into enough of a mold, that eventually he'll come out on the other side and be a good person. And they'll so all of their totalitarian ideas are about constraining people sufficiently so that they will eventually become what the social engineers deem as worthy individuals or moral individuals. And it just completely negates the idea of human nature, and that's why it always fails. And that's why it always gets into crushing physical policy, because when it fails, they don't stop and say, wow, they don't have the self-realization to understand why it failed. So their solution to failure is force. And as it fails more with more force, they just use increasingly more force. And that's why you've seen over 100, a century, really, of this ideology that 100, probably at least 100 million, if not 200 million people have been killed by their own government in the name of social engineering.
Definitely
And they're not
these,
done. I mean,
no, they're definitely not done. These authoritarian policies, like you described, are leading to the destruction of humanity ultimately, right? I mean, this perpetual boot on the head of the individual. So why, Representative DeGraaf, do so many people vote for the Democrats then? Why have they captured the state of Colorado? Do you think it's just because of maybe the failures of having clean elections, or is there more to it than that? Is it something in the minds of Colorado voters that they feel that they're doing the right thing by voting for these policies?
I think kind of an ideological capture. It's very easy. It's very easy on the Democrat side to promise everybody everything, right? You can, if you're not constrained by any fiscal reality, I think we're seeing this. We're seeing, unfortunately, the fallout on things like on para, right? The teachers were promised an unsustainable uh, something that was completely unsustainable. It was based on, this continued projection of growth. It was projected, and a lot of the money that was basically promised to them, on this growth came out of a much stronger economy, came out of a growing economy. And I've just seen, I think it was Jeff Hunt that posted the U-Haul stuff, saying that Colorado has gone from the top 10 places where people are moving into, one-way tickets into Colorado, to more of the top 10 of people moving out of Colorado. So eventually, I think it was Margaret Thatcher that said eventually you run out of other people's money. But even though they are out of money, they were out of money last year, and you think, okay, well, we're done. Well, they're out of money, and we should have been going home, and they were still presenting bills that would have cost $100 million. And I think it's appropriate to call them bills because those bills are going to have to be paid by the children of the people of Colorado, right? So, they are, they leave us, holding the bag. So they have this unlimited number of good ideas, and they never, well, good, I call, if a good intention, Scott mentioned this morning in church, but if a good intention was a good idea, it wouldn't require a gun. And so they have all these good intentions, and they say, "Oh, well, we're going to do this, and we're going to impose these restrictions on the people of Colorado on the building to make sure that they do." They use this energy efficient material, and we're going to force it on them because they're not smart enough to do it on their own, which means it's not going to actually help them because, if a developer could look at, the windows and doors and insulation, you could eventually, they would make that choice for themselves. They don't need the hand of bureaucracy. But you have a self-anointed group that just feels that if everybody just listened to them, then the world and all of its problems would just be solved. And instead of making a good business case for their plans, it always ends up being that they seem to have this idea that their ideas only fail because they don't have enough power. So with enough power, their ideas will work. It's just that, we're a free market individual, you or I on the free market side, because that aligns with the Declaration of Independence. Capitalism, of course, is not a constitutional value. The free market would be aligned with that. Capitalism, I think, is more aligned. Capitalism is actually more of pure capitalism is more of a perfect form of communism, which is ironic. But um, you have the free market where you would try something on a small scale, and when it works, you don't even have to. It doesn't require a gun, right? If it works, people just do it, right? So you don't have to have that. So and then things expand, where their ideas fail on they fail continuously, and so their solution is not that their ideas need to change, they just need more power.
Right. These authoritarian policies, just a little bit more money, just a little bit more of your rights to give up, just a little bit more. This time we'll get it right. This time it'll all work out. Just keep feeding the pig there, and of course, pig just gets fat enough to
Yeah,
be
the
slaughtered.
tax
That's
and
it.
there's yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, it's all tax and shackle, right? They want to extract your money to use for something else, and of course it gets diverted into other programs and into other people's pockets, um, and then the shackle part of continuing to increase the restrictions on well, when it comes to the climate commitments. I noticed Jared didn't call them climate goals the other day, called them climate commitments. So a goal would be something that you can achieve. Commitment is just that they want to they want to spend all your money to accomplish absolutely nothing. But they've committed to it, and so Jared just needs all your money.
So, what can we do, right? What can we do to turn the ship around, to right the course? Because you see it, nationally, there was so many wins. Trump won with a tremendous mandate, really. Colorado, we definitely had some victories. I really want to highlight those with our state house and defeating some bad ballot measures. We have a 50-50 split in our congressional representation now, which, is pretty amazing, really, when so many people consider Colorado to be so deep blue. But Representative DeGraaf, what can we do here at the local level? What can we do in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in our house districts even, to try and turn things around and restore some sense of freedom to our state?
Well, I think wow, there's a lot. There's a lot there. One is accountability. I think accountability is great. You mentioned a couple things: Colorado Union of Taxpayers. Liberty Scorecard. Those are both really good, and there are others. They're both very good ways. Neither of them claim to be perfect, but you have you have a solid a group of individuals, volunteers that are rating the bills. They just say these are our ideas, and that's some place that that individuals can go and say, okay, what is it about this bill? Maybe why, to get to get an idea um, of why we might be against it. I don't always agree with Liberty Scorecard. They don't always agree with me. We have good conversations, and there's reasons why. I mean, um, where we might have the same idea but disagree on how a bill is. But I think what we saw, and you mentioned it just, and this goes back to the supermajority. What people really need to do is they need to get engaged. They need to be involved, and we had that. What took us out of the what took in this case Rebecca Kelty's race, because that was a dead heat. That was a dead heat out of like 45,000 votes. You were head to head with all the way down to a zero difference where they were talking about flipping a coin. They were going to flip a coin, and then they discovered that there were three votes that were for and I posted them, so you probably saw on there that they counted for Stephanie Vigil that were basically protest votes where the person had colored the ballot, colored the dot, and then drawn a solid black line through the dot and through the name, and it's in accordance with the directions, and that should not have been counted. And they found three votes, but those three votes were adjudicated for something entirely different than that. And so they were not only counted for Vigil in the general election, they were also counted in the recount. And I kind of get the idea that I think she wanted to appeal it, and then she blamed I heard she blamed that she said she was afraid of Republican the Republican mails or something. Not that she knows what a mail is, but that I think they really shut it down because if they you would have to go into all of the ballots, and I'll bet there's a lot of protest ballots, and I'll bet the way they're programmed, they all went for, I would imagine they were all counted for her. So, and I don't know but what ultimately pulled that through was just the number of voters that came out and voted. Now, on the Republican side, there were a lot that didn't vote for Kelty, and for whatever reason, they left that blank. I don't agree with that. I think she's going to be a good addition. And I'm looking forward to working with her. But it was the overall turnout, and the Democrats, they don't care if you're mad. They don't care if people are mad. They care if they vote. They care if they're engaged, and this shows why. So, when people are, and I get frustrated with the church on this because, they say, well, we'll start voting when we have candidates that represent our values. And it's like, well, you're not going to have candidates that represent your values until you get engaged in the process. Now, Colorado still has we still have the caucus and assembly process that's coming up. That is going to be the best way to get engaged in the process, is to be part of your local party, be part of choosing and selecting and promoting candidates that have your value, that have the values of our republic in mind, that have constitutional values, that are focused on individual liberty and not government sovereignty or not industrial sovereignty. We need to get back to the part where we are focused on representing the rights of the individual.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I really liked what you said about accountability. That's where it starts. So often the media carries water for some of these authoritarian politicians down there and doesn't want to say anything bad
Oh,
about
yeah.
them. But thankfully, we have social media. We have a whole group of people engaged, watching what's going on, watching the Colorado channels, showing up to testify at committee hearings, interacting with their legislators, and really, blowing the whistle and exposing some of this bad behavior and some of this dismissive attitude that so many of these authoritarians have, where they don't even want to listen to the public testimony. They don't want to consider alternative viewpoints. So I think that's a huge step in the right direction, is having this accountability, really identifying the worst of the worst down there, paying attention to what they're doing, exposing their activity, and then engaging, like you said, get involved. Everybody needs to know who represents you in our state government, right? Our state, who's your state representative, who's your state senator, who's your county commissioner, who's your city council member, who's your mayor. People really have to take an active engagement with their communities if they want to make a positive impact, I'd say.
Yeah, the first term of Trump, we thought the swamp was up in D.C. And one thing that it exposed is that if you're not sure where the swamp is, just look down because you're at least ankle deep in it. It's your school board, it's your county commission, it's your city, your city, it's your library district. The libraries are the ones that are, so instrumental in putting, ratedbooks.org. You can see where those books are, and it's groomer porn. And these are, a lot of times they're people that are ostensibly, they'll say that they're Republican and they're voting against the values. So we really need to be engaged. And you mentioned that with committees. Committees is an excellent way to be engaged, especially because, and it feels like, people will say, well, it doesn't do me any good because they don't listen to me. And I could say the same thing. I go there and I talk. I've got lots of videos. I've got lots of hours in the well. And people say, yeah, we like that you're standing up. I say, well, it doesn't do me any good. So I might as well be, out someplace flying or something like that, something I'd rather do. Uh, but I have seen bills, we have seen bills that have been pulled off entirely because there were hundreds of people that were signed up to testify. So they're going to do this again with the assault weapons ban. They're going to bring that back and they're going to try again and they're going to try again and they're going to try again. And what we need is a queue of people that is so overwhelming that they look at that and go, wow, this is not politically expedient. They're, so that they'll at least wait for another, they'll wait to fight that battle for another day. They're not going to give up on fighting that battle because, as long as citizens are armed, they have a level of sovereignty. And that's, they don't want that. They want to be able to control you entirely. And so they need you to not have that, what I call the fifth that of the Declaration of Independence, that if if the government becomes odious to the rights that, the unalienable self-evident rights that we have, that it's not just it's not just an expectation, but it's a duty to overthrow that government. So, we want to avoid that. We don't want to get to that point, and we can do that by being engaged, by voting, by testifying in these committees, by writing to the legislators. All of the legislators are your legislator. A Colorado representative I am from House District 22, but I am a representative of all of Colorado. So don't just, so write to all of them. Let them know, and also let them know when they're doing good. Don't just, when that you appreciate that, if they're, taking a constitutional stance. It could happen. Some of the Democrats might wander into, to defending the Constitution. It's not likely, but it could happen.
Well, speaking about doing good and standing up for our rights, what bills are you planning on sponsoring this year?
Well, I'm going to present criminal asset forfeiture, civil asset forfeiture reform. I thought that would be an easy one to fix because I thought everybody was pretty much on board with that. Right now, what's the process that is considered due to the individual is, to convict you of a crime. You have, to deprive you of life, liberty, or property. You're supposed to have, you're not supposed to have that without due process. But the civil, the Supreme Court back in I think it was 1994, I don't remember the case number, but they basically determined that the process that you, Brandon, are deserving, that are due for the removal of your individual of your property was just a civil court with the preponderance of evidence, as opposed to putting you in jail. It requires beyond reasonable doubt. But the standard for removing your property is just, so you might not be guilty enough to be convicted, but you're guilty enough to have them take away your property, which is really so I'm going to try that again. Last year we had pared it down to be strictly about we took everything out of the 2023 bill and stripped it down, so it would be mostly just about, making sure that there was an actual criminal conviction before you took the before you transferred title to somebody's property. And the police, it was interesting because they said, well, we can't wait for a criminal conviction because it just takes too long, which, of course, in my closing, I said, well, the police just said why we need reform because we're taking people's property without, and we're just saying, well, because we need the money for something else. But the governor's office effectively killed that at the last hour. We were ready to go to committee, and then all of a sudden I get a call from the law enforcement who hadn't talked to me about it at all, even though, and they said, well, we can't support it. We're just going to vote we're going to pull it. We're not going to support it at all. We don't have anything that we can tell you is wrong with it. We're just going to be done. And then the sheriffs called, unfortunately, some of the Republicans on the committee, and they voted with the law enforcement because it was so late in the game. And then another voted with the DA. But the call came from the to the lobbyists of those two groups of the DAs, or I don't have 100%, but just based on the timing of it, that of the texts that were received, that it was initiated out of the governor's office that we need to pull the plug on this, and so we need to keep that where people's property is. I think it's a political weapon because they can seize your property, and they can keep it, right? It's so that way that they can punish you like you're guilty even if you're not ever determined to be guilty. I'm going to present also the concurrent resolution to make the veterans and disabled veterans and senior exemption portable. Interestingly enough, just making it portable, the Democrats said it was too costly, so they made up they made up an entire extra, they passed a version of their own, which was reclassifying property. And the reason mine would put it constitutionally that it's mobile. And what that would do is it would open up houses and all that stuff. So it's, a senior can move and not lose their tax exemption. Well, the Democrats did it administratively so that they can, because, what the government giveth, the government can taketh away. So they want to be able to say, hey, we made your senior tax exemption portable. And then in 2 years, they want to just silently take it back so it's no longer portable, or whenever they feel like it. And then the other one that I did along that line was to make that exemption adjusted for inflation, because it hasn't been adjusted for inflation since 2004. And under Bidenomics, we're just getting out of a 22% inflation. So the exemption maxed out at about $100,000, and of course that was under the Gallagher, so that would be for a house that was much more expensive. So basically, I think it would, how that would work under Gallagher. So the median, if you looked at the median home value, that $100,000 should now be about $275,000, just if it's based on the home value. And if you based it on just inflation, it should have gone to $175,000 as the max deduction. And instead, I pared it down, and that, just said it would have been about 137,000. And they said, no, that's too expensive. So we have something on the books, a constitutional provision for people to be able to have a homestead exemption. We said, we want them to have it. And the Democrats are saying that it's too expensive to extend that. I'll do another, I've got to finalize some wording on it because of the governor's new thing on grid sustainability, although it's not really. But we need to get away from we need to take on the idea of, one, our grid is very fragile, and it's very fragile more and more as we put on solar panels, as we put on wind. And something that just came out I mean, it's not new, but it was just revealed or brought out again that every single solar panel is a node for hacking. So is a node for hacking into the grid. And there are places where they have, and who makes these solar panels? Well, they're mostly all made in China, right? And so we have hostile nations that we are just foolishly putting in charge of our grid. And we need to make sure that is stabilized, that is secure. And we also need to get away from the foolishness of the climate, what I call the climate con, because CO2, you've seen it. I post it all the time because it's up against the repetition of the climate scam, and that it's there are 3,200 billion tons of CO2 in the atmosphere. Colorado generates about 0.125 billion tons per year. So the most that could change the atmospheric energy is about 4 millionths. So 4 millionths of 40 degrees is, and that's if you look at the Independence Institute. I just saw that report came out. Is somewhere around it's over $50,000 per Coloradan is what this would cost if Jared gets his way. It's going to cost it'll cost a family of four $200,000. And that's, so that at some point you go, okay, I see why people are leaving Colorado because, that's unsustainable. And I think that's also why they send the hellhounds and demon weasels after after the ranchers and ag because, they need places for these solar panels. And so they need to distress ag out of business.
Wow. Yeah, I've thought that as well with like the anti-gun legislation. I know they know that this anti-gun legislation isn't really going to achieve the goals they say it is, but it'll sure get out the gun shops out of Colorado. It'll get gun owners wanting to move away, and you have this demographic shift that helps secure their
Hmm.
control of the government. So it makes perfect sense that that'd be part of the agenda with this anti-agriculture type of policies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sadly so, but people don't see. They don't see what they're doing. They see, Jared Polis doing his happy dance and pretending like he's a libertarian when, his act as the avuncular libertarian elf, like, oh, I'm just passing these things. That's another thing that's with the two-thirds majority, I think, because I don't know if he uses that as cover. Of course, we have Democrats that will say, I don't want to vote for this. I think it's too extreme, but I'll get primaried if I don't vote for it. So they're they're not independent thinking. They're not independent. There's no independent thought there. They're all voting as they're told, more or less. There's a few dissenting votes sometimes, but mostly they're just voting as they're told. So um, yeah, I don't know what the end game is, but it's not historically it's not good for the people of Colorado.
Right. Well, I definitely applaud you for being a champion for civil asset forfeiture. It's been just a terrible policy that's been around too long. So thank you for that. Please keep us updated on when those and I'll keep an eye out too and alert people when your bill's going to be heard in committee and how people can show up and speak out and get involved. Every Sunday during the 2025 legislative session, Free State Colorado, myself, and the Libertarian Party of Colorado, the legislative director, Michael Vance, we're going to be doing a live stream starting at 7:30 every night. So you're more than welcome to join us if you'd like. But I encourage the viewers out there to tune in because we'll be talking about some of the most important bills of the week and give you the opportunity and the tools that you need to show up at these committee hearings to speak out, to get involved, and to be up to date. Because by the time a bill gets to the floor, it's already pretty much decided. No, don't get me wrong. When it gets into a committee, a lot of times it's already decided. But nonetheless, the committee is where we can have the biggest impact in terms of speaking, in terms of interacting with the legislators, and having our voice heard. So just wanted to mention that because citizen involvement is so important. And I think, the more people that get involved, the more exposure there is on what's going on in our state government. That's going to ultimately be one of the best tools to turn things around for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Well, perfect. Well, I definitely
And
recommend people.
brilliant by the libertarians on the lawsuit. The lawsuit against Jenna's gold standard. That was brilliant on the part of the Libertarian Party.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's great to see that we have an opposition party on some level, at least, trying to stand up and fight back because you know, what do? You do what you can. You do what you can. You sue, you go to court, you fight everywhere you can, and that's so important. So yeah, really proud of the Libertarian Party, my friends and fellow party members who are fighting for election integrity and just liberty in general here in Colorado. But I definitely encourage people to follow you on X. Representative DeGraaf, you post some amazing stuff on the climate con, as you call it, and other good information. And I know you're going to be sharing a lot of insider information during the legislative session. People follow Representative DeGraaf on X, on formerly Twitter. All the links will be at freestatecolorado.com. But any final words here, Representative DeGraaf?
Uh, no, appreciate the the support Colorado has shown me, and going back, and that's encouraging that that people are in the mind of getting back towards a representative government. And it's gonna it we got vigilance is hard. We lost it. That's why we are where we are. And so it's gonna take some uphill fighting in order to get out of this mess. But things change when people decide that they're more interested in their future than they are in pop culture and sports scores. So get involved in this game. It's full contact. Just so so get up there, support us. This is your future.
Couldn't agree more. Well, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your time. Appreciate all your efforts down at the legislature, and look forward to hearing from you again.
Excellent. Chat with you later. See you, Brandon.
Take care.